Hey, what's up, app mafias? Welcome back to the commute. In this video, I'm joined by Jovche. He has been mentoring a lot of people around Android development. He is an Android developer himself and has a lot of experience. So this podcast will be full packed with things that you might need to know as an Android developer. I hope you guys really enjoy that. And for now, let's get started. So I usually start off my podcast by asking this one question: How do you define stable life for yourselves?
Stable life. You mean in terms of work and finances, or something else?
Yeah, work and finances. How do you think about managing life itself? Because when I'm working with different employees, and if I tend to interview employees versus a founder tends to always value time or and freedom over money, as employees tend to trade their time with money. So that's what my thinking behind this particular question is. What do you value, and how do you define stable life for yourselves?
Yeah. So I see stability in becoming undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain. So when you get the confidence in your skills and your abilities that you can outperform pretty much
Mm-hmm.
anyone, um, that's where you are gonna get this feeling of stability that you can pretty much jump to any, like from any to any other role or position,
Mm-hmm.
or 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 do something with your abilities that's gonna generate that's gonna generate some cash that you can
Mm-hmm.
sustain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
It does. Um, yeah, I think that reaching to that level, to an being in an ever flow state level, that you understand everything and you tend to do you tend to code perfectly. Is it's an I think so. It's an ever reaching goal for every developer out there. And yeah, if you are really good at whatever you do, I think so. It's very easy to jump to new heights. Mm, yeah, but I think so.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah, yeah.
If I interrupted, go ahead.
No, no, yeah, yeah, sure. You
I
can.
wanted to say it is really like over time understanding what you are there for and
Mm-hmm.
what people are expecting from you.
Mm-hmm.
So is it coding perfectly something that people are expecting from you, or is it something else?
Mm-hmm.
When you start distinguishing these two things, and um, and getting, because you mentioned the entrepreneurs, they value time
Mm-hmm.
and uh, what did you say? Time and freedom,
Yeah.
and employees are trading their time.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, if you when you understand how you can trade your time the
Mm-hmm.
best,
Mm-hmm.
that's actually what I'm trying to deliver. If you understand what exactly is expected from you, maybe it's not perfect coding.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what's expected from you is something else, which is delivering results, and
Mm-hmm.
these results particularly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
It's yeah. I think you're trying to say how to build leverage, enough leverage to so that your time becomes almost passive in nature, and
exactly.
you can live the life that you want. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's the approach I think so. Every founder and every person should adopt. But yeah, most of them, I think, most of the employees when they start out, they trade their time for money. So that's the norm. But that's the goal.
definitely. Definitely. But I think like you as an employee and us, like we
Mm-hmm.
all work somewhere, right? As an
Mm-hmm.
employee, you have to find a way to understand what is expected from you.
Mm-hmm.
And then that comes down to actually soft skills, which is communication, and pretty basic communication. So you can
Mm-hmm.
sit down together with your manager or whoever is above you, and you can ask questions. You can say, look, what is expected from me. So most of the time you go to a company and they're like, they're going to say, build your own roadmap towards where you want to go. And then they're going to ask you once half a year or once a year, how good you are in achieving your goals that you have set yourself. And then you have no clue what is expected from you. So you are just staying in the same loop, right? And then they're going to say, okay, cool, but this is not enough for a promotion, right? If, on the other hand, you sit with them together and ask, what do you need from me? How can I do my job best so that I scale to the level where you where you're expecting me to be? That's the better question to ask. Well, some people are good in taking more ownership and responsibility on themselves because they can observe the situation and see, okay, I see an improvement here. I see an improvement here. I see how can I help in this manner. I see the customers are complaining about this. How about I spend 2 hours extra? I just invest those 2 hours extra to make these customers happy and show as a proof to the company that, okay, I can do more. Right? In the right direction. Okay, now that's maybe not for everybody, and not everybody can observe this. Not everybody is aware of the situation because people are distracted very easily. And instead of observing these situations, they blindly go to work and do the tasks in Jira. That's fine. If that's also expected from them. But it would be quite an easy situation to sit down with your manager and see, look, how can I help you the best? Because they are also striving for something more most of the time. And then if you identify what they are what they want to do, how they can achieve the results better, and you contribute in that, that's and essentially how like you're helping others, like you're helping yourself by helping others. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think it also depends upon what company you work in, because I think if you're a startup, maybe this approach will work faster. But if it's a big company, like maybe working in an Apple, I think so your decisions might be buried down due to bureaucracy. But yeah, I think if you're making the essential decisions and or do whatever that is required so that you can deliver the product to the customer and customer is happy, that's what every business demands. And yeah, I agree with your part.
I think in terms of the comparison between startup and corporation, it's still like, yeah, you are less communicating with customers probably at a corporation level because of the bureaucracy, but still within the context where you are, within the team where you are, you can still do the same by asking questions whoever is above you. I've seen it work. That's why I'm confident in saying it. So yeah, you are not having too much of an impact like wider because you're just a point somewhere in the corporation. But within the context where you are, definitely can make a difference.
I agree.
So essentially, it's going to take much longer time, right? But it depends on how much you're willing to invest in that time.
I agree. I usually, I wanted to kind of go on a tangent here and ask about that one thing that you said about being undeniable, right? So, what's your position on this being undeniable as a developer? What's your thinking in that?
Being undeniable in terms of showing off that or having a proof that you can achieve things.
To get the results that you talk about.
Okay. Yeah.
I
so
think,
like if go ahead.
I think it's mostly that if you are confident in your skills and you have practiced them enough, you will be able to deliver them. Other than that, it's just if you're confident, I think so. People who are confident, they have a personality that if they say something, they do it, and that's what gives them confidence. So yeah, that's my thinking. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it boils down to actually having the confidence of your abilities, right? And how do you build this confidence of your abilities? By building things, right? And instead of like wasting time on Instagram and TikTok and Netflix, you can invest time in yourself, being it online resources, materials, which is okay, but more of I would say investing by doing something. There is let's say certain technology that I understand if you hate it, but if that's the demand of the market, you just observe and look what's required from the market. So you are becoming undeniable by being able to deliver in that area. You hate you hate React Native, cool. But if you have the ability to build a React Native app, chances are you are going to widen the market you can cover. So if you end up in a position where the only option for you moving forward is joining a team that builds React Native, and if you can like easily just go into that team and start delivering value, you are much more
flexible.
Yeah, you are much more how to say wanted candidate compared to somebody who is good to have RX. React Native. Same applies to Flutter. Same applies to anything that a company wants. So like when you can cover a bigger market, so in that area, in that sense, we all love something in particular. Like for me, that's native Android development. But the ability of and the ability to show that you can do, not only like saying that you can do. That's what makes you more undeniable.
I agree. I actually wanted to ask you about your story, like becoming wherever you are right now in this career. How did you pass out from the college, get started in this world of apps? Did you switch from some other field like web, or started off in Android itself? What was your thinking, and how did you get started? What's your story overall?
To be fair, I had no clue.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I started back 2008-9, it was the time when I started actively working with development, and I was hired at the company. Like initially, it all started at university. When I started, like at university, we were working in different programming languages, and it was more focused on web development, like web apps. However, there was just additional training on top of my my university. At university, we were mostly like working with algorithms and data structures, so nothing fancy. But yeah, there was additional course that I took on development. And that was mostly based on web development. And then after the end of the course, I ended up into an internship at a company. And this company set me on a position to work on BlackBerry applications. So back then, BlackBerry was big.
Yeah.
So I started working on BlackBerry, and I started liking this. And then I started thinking, okay, but BlackBerry is just one sort of platform. How about these other platforms? Like, what about Symbian? What about back then Palm? How do I deliver applications for these? And started exploring a little bit more so that I can, see how can I, for example, port one application on different platform. And then that was about the time when Apple and iPhone started growing a lot, and Android came to the market. So I started looking into Android, and to my disappointment, I started feeling disappointed with this XML and configuration and things like that. But it started becoming the way to go for Android. Like Android started becoming big or growing in that sense. And it was clear. And at the same time, BlackBerry was started to go down. It was clear that we should focus more on Android. And that's how everything started. And since then, I've changed companies, I've changed teams. I did try backend, but for a pet project. Like I've been living with roommates over the time, and I was interested. I wanted to see how Spring works, how the web technologies work. I didn't spend any professional time with it, only like on pet projects, but it was enough to be able to to see the differences, to understand what are the similarities architecturally, for example, and to explore different languages. Like I tried Ruby, I tried a little bit JavaScript back then, and yeah, so it wasn't only based on Java, the whole story. Fast forward, I started to move countries from my homeland to also work on now professionally on Android. And yeah, 2017, I ended up in the Netherlands, and here is where I'm currently.
Netherlands is beautiful. World's flattest country. That's what I think. Yeah. What's like when you're talking about BlackBerry as such, it just gives me an idea around how Android came along and how BlackBerry died. What do you think? Something like this would be around the corner that might kill Android, and there will be something new like VR or AR coming around.
That's a very interesting question. I don't know, or at least I don't see that, and here is why. Currently, like BlackBerry back then wasn't as big in terms of like it was more targeting business people, but it wasn't targeting just regular people. On the flip side, you have iPhone that simply targeted everybody, and the key that made iPhone so successful was the simplicity of use. Yeah, it was expensive. It was targeting expensive markets, of course, initially. But now people understand the value in iPhone that even like, I mean, you're gonna go for it simply because it's good when you just see how it like what's on it. And that's actually where Android also came like the trade-off that Android made was that it is open source, or at least how I see it. It's open source, so you can deliver on different devices, and it boomed because many different manufacturers can put this OS on their devices. And now Android became even bigger because it was delivering on lower performant devices as well as on highly performant devices. And now it is so big, like almost everywhere you see Android running, like on like many mobile devices. Now, for something to replace it, I don't see how. Like it has to be compatible with either with one of these platforms to be replaced, because like you couldn't really ask people to replace their device instantly. It's gonna take a long time, and something that has to be so good that is literally life changing. And I simply don't see, like I don't see that far. I don't know.
I tend to agree because I think that Android OS is, first of all, as you said, it's open source. There are too many Android, there's too much Android dependency now because
Yeah.
a lot of phones are still running on Android. It's hard to replace all of these phones. And even if you were to replace them somehow, is it possible that we were to generate some kind of new technology, maybe AR, VR, and make them affordable enough to be like purchasable in India itself? Maybe it's very hard to do that, and because iPhone, I think, is like some kind of luxury in India itself because it's not manufactured in India, but I think it's just different in different countries. But yeah, what do you think? Yeah.
I think it is considered a luxury in many countries, not only in India. I think the like perhaps half of the world, if not more, would consider it as a luxury. And that's why I said, like on Android you have like different varieties of devices where Android can run, and that's what makes it bigger and popular. And having something to replace this is gonna be really like, yeah, AR, VR. I don't know, like, do you see a world where people are just wearing some device and then walking on the streets? With the phones, that happens now. Like wherever you go, People don't talk. Like you sit on a train or a tram or whatever, like in a bus. People don't talk to each other, even on the streets, and they are just, tapping on their devices. Um, maybe we weren't able to see that 15 or 10 years ago, and now we live that. So yeah, it could be that maybe in a foreseeable future we see these technologies like VR, so that people walk with that device on their head on the streets. Um,
It might be that we might have some kind of Facebook smart glasses and stuff. Just doing that, wearing some kind of glasses and walking around in the street, in the metro, in the subway, wherever we want, and navigating with the hands stuff. If that's what Facebook is trying to do with their smart glasses, but I think so. It's very far fetched because we already have phones which are much easily accessible, much cheaper, much easier to navigate. And it's another sense of privacy, first of all, because if you're wearing a smart glass, what's to say that we are the only ones who are seeing whatever we are seeing? So it's another term of that. And other than that, it's very accident prone because we are too much distracted because our eyesight is compromised. So um, yeah, it's a lot of things, a lot of points that companies need to take care of if they want to start somewhere VR. But I think so AR is something that interests me more because I think so it might get integrated into our apps itself. I mean, a food delivery apps now have that to just view your food on your table, or maybe Amazon has that to just view your mattress on your bed. So it's something interesting that interests me. Yeah.
I do agree, especially on the privacy point. It is big, it is huge, especially in the Western countries, and I don't know how that's gonna pass through with devices like glasses, for example, or devices that are having cameras that you can shoot people
Knowing them.
without their permission. But yeah, it's about, like, we are gonna see how this is gonna develop. On the other side, I also see an advance. For example, when you're having such a device that can detect potential, potential dangerous situations that can maybe, like, because there are people with disabilities and people with different issues maybe, that when they have this device on might make it safer for them. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's about, yeah, we'll see how that's going, because there are different possibilities, different options. It's just about to see how we are going to leverage that as a society and as a technology.
I think so. Technology, as a technocrat, someone who is addicted to technology once in a while working here, we tend to always, think about technology as something as extension of our body parts, and we love making something new. I think so. Rabbit R1 was the example of AI booming and trying to replace hardware as such. Um, I think that. Um, it would be pretty different from what I think right now because a lot of people are predicting VR, AR. But I think as we look at the graph of how we have discovered things in over a century, maybe, we have seen that mobiles are not that old. It's 20 years or 30 years old. And we have a new technology every 30, 20 years of cycle. It might be that we don't actually need uh, phones anymore at a point that we might be just like having robots around us doing our job, and we had free enough to do that. But it's far-fetched, it's very far-fetched for now. um, Someone who has a interested in entrepreneurship and someone who is interested in apps, we are just here to make money with apps. That's what my thinking is. Yeah. What's what's your thinking about how is your development scene in Netherlands? What are people mostly using? Are they going for native Android or are they doing something else like React Native or Flutter?
There are varieties. There are businesses that are using multi-platform. There are like Kotlin multi-platform. There are companies that are using different cross-platform technologies like Flutter and React Native. There is one really big business in Netherlands. It is called Picnic, which is food delivery at home. So like instead of you going buying your groceries, they're gonna bring them at your home, and that's built with React Native. That's a big and a really, really well done application. There is a giant company in the Netherlands, Philips, probably you know because it's worldwide, and they are also building their smart devices in terms of lighting, and that application is built in Flutter. Also, you see there are different businesses and different companies doing different things. Most of the companies where I used to work are using native. That's what you're gonna see most of the time, but yeah, there are varieties.
Of course, I think it also depends upon the demographics of how development plays out, because I think in maybe South America somewhere, I've seen that most people are using React Native rather than Android, and like coming towards Asia, people are tending towards native platforms over something else. And I think so it's just introduction of things and how people tend to play out, because I think so Flutter might get introduced later on in life, when you're already an Android developer in India or in Asian countries where access to new things is a little later in life. That's what I think, at least. And yeah, that's why I asked how Netherlands is playing out. As of React Native itself, I think so Instagram is built on React Native, so it's a very good technology in its own terms. But personally, as a native app developer, I don't like React Native. But I think so this is the thinking of most of the app developers. Yeah, what's your thinking on React Native and Flutter versus KMP as such?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree certainly on what you're saying. Like, I don't like React Native either. Neither do I like Flutter. But back to the first question that you asked about becoming undeniable, these are technologies that it's not what you want, it's what the business wants. And like, if you can cover that market, I understand. If you don't like it, cool. Like, it's not like it's a must. But in terms of like the stability that we spoke about, having the ability to deliver in that regard is making you more stable. Now, that being said, yeah, it's one thing what I like and what I prefer. It's another what market wants. And yeah, I think businesses, especially small, like when they begin, when they start, they tend to go with something that they feel cheaper initially. Like, how can I deliver in a cheaper manner? And that's why probably they go with these. Or at least from my experience, what I saw so far, more established businesses are going with, if they start development of mobile applications while after they become established, they tend to go with native, because native simply outperforms whatever you got in terms of like
Performance,
like the UX experience of the application in general. It's very interesting to see Kotlin multi-platform, how everything's going to develop, because so far the development of it is promising. So I think we are in a position where you can pretty much do have a shared code that can work on both platforms. And what I like personally about it is that you can decide until where you are going to have the shared code. So you can have the really simple thing. Let's say you are having some sort of place or some sort of a feature that has to be shared between two. And instead of building it twice, you can do it once and then share it. But you don't have to build everything with this, right? You can still have majority of the things done in Swift and majority of the things done in Kotlin natively. That's why I see this as a bigger potential. And you can go as far as like building the UI with it as well, with Compose platform now. I am not certain, like I haven't tried deeply to compare the performance of it and how everything's gonna be. I know there are challenges with integrations, especially now, like for example, the previews and things like that. So people are becoming, how to say? I mean, programmers tend to be innovative and they find ways, which is something that I really like. So yeah, time will tell, but I do have a much bigger, how to say, I
Bias.
trust more, or yeah, bigger bias towards Kotlin multi-platform compared to Flutter and React Native.
I think that's just one more thing. Like I've used Flutter myself, and I've experienced Flutter React Native apps. There are multiple apps in India as well, multiple big companies that are using Flutter and React Native. But I think they started off small. That's why they have it. Most of the big companies that are already, they have already established product and a good distribution. When they start an app, they definitely go native because they value experience and UI of the app. And I think so it also depends upon how much the user is actually using the app, because if the user has a utility app, which might be the IoT app that you talked about from Philips, it would be like just to turn off maybe a light, change a different color, and it wouldn't be as much of a big deal if you're reading an article somewhere, or maybe investing in a stock, or maybe you're trying to do something or order a food. So it depends upon how much the app is being used. For example, I think so Duolingo is native. So um, so Duolingo, I think so these people who are using users of Duolingo spend a lot of time on the app. So native value matters a lot there. And for a utility app like just turning off a light or maybe changing a different channel, I didn't think so native matters that a lot until unless there's some kind of engineering bottleneck there. But yeah, that's what my thinking is. Other than that, I've tried KMP and like, have you ever heard about Cobweb framework?
Not really, no.
Cobweb is basically similar to Compose Web. It's actually built upon that. It's like um, what React was for JavaScript. It's basically Cobweb is similarly for Kotlin KMP. It allows you to build websites. I'm actually making my own portfolio with Cobweb, and I think it's pretty interesting. It's pretty promising. I can build a portfolio on my own website with Cobweb. Of course, there are discrepancies and deprecations occurs a lot because it's pretty new, and I think so. It is handled by a very small team, and but yeah, it's promising. I think so. KMP is super promising, and most of the big companies will definitely migrate to KMP. And yeah, that's what my thing is. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I agree there. Yeah.
yeah. Other than that, like I think there's a very big um graph here for Android developers, because I think like as an Android developer, if you want to get hired, you need to understand Java, you need to understand XML, Kotlin, Jetpack Compose. You need to first have a good understanding of Android basics, what is lifecycle, broadcast receiver, stuff. You need to also, if maybe companies using KMP, you need to have some kind of projects in KMP to deliver that. So it's a very big learning curve for to become an app developer here. What's your thinking on that, and how can one start becoming and improve as a developer?
Yeah, essentially, what you said is true, and I mean, I don't know if I should be saying this. You can cut it off if that's not appropriate. I run a community where I'm helping people with landing jobs, with getting skills, and this area, basically what you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, people do have good understanding of these things, and they have good portfolios,
Mm-hmm.
but that they fail in showing the proof that actually they are capable.
Mm-hmm.
So the time when we were just clicking a button on LinkedIn and get invitations for interviews is over.
Mm-hmm.
And now you may see it in a form of like the market is tough, blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the reality is that the market is just ramping up the entry level barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So like they want to see employers and recruiters, they want to see an effort at a candidate that they really want to get this job.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of blindly applying by clicking a button on LinkedIn, you actually have to put an effort.
Mm-hmm.
And that would address this side that actually has a good understanding and they're struggling to land a job. On the flip side, you have to get to the question, the people that want to start, to get started. Again, it does apply work, but it does apply more work.
Mm-hmm.
So like what are the, like you can pretty much follow a step-by-step system to achieve this.
Mm-hmm.
The first step is like going to the market and see what the market wants. If they want native Android development, you can see what these applications, like just open LinkedIn and scrape through it. Find like, I don't know, 50, 100 job offers and see what they want, what they expect you to have. Then make a list of things that you have to build. Like make a list of things that you lack knowledge, and then get on it and build things with where you can prove, where you can show, like as part of your portfolio on GitHub, that you have the ability to build things with these technologies, right? So like, yeah, it does cut off your Netflix. It does cut off for some of the people the night with the guys, and maybe some, you know, time on Instagram and TikTok, but essentially works. It really works. So if you become obsessed with the thing, I think that's the way to go.
I agree.
So yeah, I would say just like watching tutorials on YouTube or reading articles on Medium is not like, oh, it's fine if you want it, but action, raw action is what matters. So sit in front of the computer, turn on Android Studio and do the thing. Like start coding, build things. That's how you get the experience that is required. That's how you get the portfolio that you will leverage to get any job that you want.
I agree. Like, I'm not cutting that part out. Like, what is the name of the community? And I'll just take the link if you can send me.
Yeah, absolutely. I will send you the link. It is called Android Devs. It's on the school platform. So there is this platform school.com.
Alex knows you.
That is, yeah. So that is a community, like that's a platform where people build communities for different purposes. I built my community there for Android development, and it has about 1K people now. So the idea behind is that we are going to have a cozy place where you can share and learn together. And the ultimate goal is to help people get out of these struggles that we are just speaking about. So yeah, it has the community aspect where people can post questions, share knowledge, share articles, whatever learning they're having or whatever they're building at the moment. So like we can just help each other. There is the aspect of a classroom where we have courses, and it is just building over time. Like there is a course for CI/CD, for example. There is a test-driven development. I don't know, Jetpack Compose, modularization, those kind of things. And the idea is that these things are being built on top, like afterwards. It's not fully fledged like everything, but as the time goes by, we put the things there. And also materials about these things, like how do you approach optimizing your job profile? How do you approach LinkedIn? How do you actually apply on jobs? How to prepare for interviews, mock interviews, take home assignments, help with all of that. And then there is the calendar aspect, where we have weekly workshop every Wednesday evening in terms of Netherlands time. And people are just joining this and asking questions, asking different things. We are working on code together. We are test driving things together. I don't know. If there is no questions or something that people need support with, we are going to work on some code. Or like open an open source KMP project from GitHub and explore it and talk about it. Do some code reviews, that kind of things. So it's a fun. And finally, there is the chat aspect where you can engage with people one-on-one, ask questions, and so forth.
That's nice. It's nice to have a community of people around you. And yeah, that's why I actually started off this podcast, to actually get to know different people in my own field. Yeah. What what's you thinking? Actually, I have very little knowledge around CI/CD and contributing to open source as an Android developer. If I
Mhm.
were to somehow get into this field of, let's say, I want to learn about CI/CD today as an Android developer, where should I start and what should I think about?
Um, Maybe first I would say focus on a concept. What does it mean
Mm-hmm.
to have this pipeline?
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea behind, or at least what I see, is getting faster feedback. So what is the fraction of you when you finish something coding until the time it hits your customer, so that you can shorten that time to get feedback if you're actively getting feedback from the customers.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine like you manually, after you build, deploying this
Mm-hmm.
application. If you can
Mm-hmm.
automate all this,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're essentially building a pipeline that's going to do particular steps
Mm-hmm.
that are being executed before the application gets delivered to the customer. And it's
Mm-hmm.
all automated.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can decide what happens in this pipeline. So that's essentially your continuous delivery.
Mm-hmm.
As you are building something, the moment it gets integrated into your main branch,
Mm-hmm.
it gets deployed to the customers automatically. And
Mm-hmm.
if only it passes certain criteria. And this
Mm-hmm.
criteria is what you have in your CI/CD system.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time you're going to have some checks, like
Mm-hmm.
running tests, making
Mm-hmm.
sure you are not breaking things. You can generate, let's say, what was done, like what are the changes, the change list,
Mm-hmm.
and essentially do the deployment. Where to start? There are different sort of say CI/CD platforms. Let's call them platforms. I don't know. That you can build this, but it all boils down to the same thing. So you have GitHub Actions, you have Bitrise, which is paid. I think it is free until certain point, but then it is paid.
Mm-hmm.
And Bitrise is allowing you to basically drag and drop these actions when you're creating the pipeline. So it sort of has a web interface where you can easify the things. Then you have Microsoft Azure, and there are these GitLab, like every like code hosting has its own. Like you can even have a self-hosted thing like Jenkins, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I would suggest pick one
Mm-hmm.
and find out more about the process than sticking to particular, because like essentially, as I said, it boils down to the same thing. Like all of them are having behind some script that that defines some steps that are being executed from some sort of runner. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I'll try to learn more about CI/CD as myself. Um, well, like one more thing I wanted to ask was open source. What do you think about how do you go about contributing in open source? Because I think as an Android developer, we are all very accustomed to how live data gets passed from one field to another. But I think most of the code that's open source out there are not just apps. They are something else. They are libraries which are used to being built app, written maybe in Java and Kotlin. How do we proceed and get started and actually contribute to these libraries as such?
The easiest way to start is by, for example, if there is a library that you are using, maybe you can just go and find, like, to get started, like really get started, to get the sense of it first. Maybe you can improve the documentation, for example, or maybe find a typo, and then you can understand how to create PRs. Then you can understand what are the different rules that different repositories are setting. Um, and yeah, and essentially you'll get the grasp of the whole process once you get confident with it. And what I'm saying, like the documentation, or maybe like you can write tests. I don't know, something that is not seen as you breaking the code. All right, and because it's not about the people that are having the repository that are going to reject you, but it's more about you building the confidence that you can also do that. And that's the idea, the essence of open source, is that people can contribute. And most of the time people are self-judgmental and afraid to do the contributions. And that's why I'm suggesting first to start with these sort of easier things where you can be more confident that, okay, here clearly there is a typo, or this documentation can be improved in this way, and then make pull requests with that. And so start with libraries that maybe you are using, or maybe repositories that you find helpful in a sense.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I would do.
I think it's just the advice overall is to pick a library and obsess about it for a while, unless you understand the code and how it is actually working, and then start contributing the code. Until then, you just mess around with it and try to use it yourselves and try to spot the stuff that you would like added into that library. And yeah, overall obsess over that particular thing. That's what I think, at least.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly, if you obsess about that thing, it's gonna be much easier, I would say. But even before that, like while you are ramping up, while you are discovering everything around this code, you can still do contributions with something that is more on the soft side, as I said. Maybe some documentation, maybe improve the README. I don't know, something like that. And meanwhile, you can get more familiar and play with it. So that you get the confidence that, okay, this is what has to be done. Like, this is the way I can approach, and I can make contributions here. At least that's what I would do. I'm not sure if this is like certain advice, but this is what I would do.
I tend not to I tend to disagree with this part of like adding documentation to open source code, because what happens is, if this idea of adding documentation and correcting typos is generalized, what happens is a lot of people are not focusing on the code itself. They're mostly going out there and just typing random stuff in documentation and just doing PRs randomly, just to show off their GitHub chart and their GitHub map that I've done something and this is now green today and stuff. I've seen this Twitter raid where a lot of people have just done PRs of documentations and added a little bit of typos without any code into that thing. That's what I'm saying. Maybe you can add documentation, but first of all, try to use that code yourself. Because if you're not coding, you're not an engineer. You're just another content writer out there. So yeah, I tend not to give this advice because a lot of people would take it as like write documentation and just show off your GitHub chart, and HR may select you. Then they worry like, why am I not getting selected? So yeah, that's what my thinking is.
Yeah, I take that disagreement fully. What I was saying is more of like, because the question was how to get started, and if you don't feel the confidence to get started with the actual code, you can do this. But I by no means I'm saying that you should only do these documentation contributions, for sure. Yeah.
As you said that you have played around with backend as such, what did you use in your backend? Like Golang or something?
No, at the company where I'm working currently, we do use Go, and I did few contributions there. But I'm not proficient in Go. Like, I don't have huge knowledge. Back in the days, I tried Ruby at another company where I used to work, and that was more of like playing around, because I was leading it was called WeTransfer Academy, which was more of like getting people together to do contributions and to share knowledge. So it wasn't something like spectacular. It was more about like having some sort of organization behind how people can contribute and share. And I was tending to share test-driven development within people, and most of the things were done in Ruby. And me sharing knowledge in Kotlin or Java was not as valuable as if I can do that with Ruby. So that's what I was trying to. And also, yeah, I tried from like on Java side or Kotlin side. I
Mhm.
tried Spring Boot and Spark. Spark was it? I think
Mhm.
the framework.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Have you tried Gator as such for backend?
I tried Cater on Android side. I haven't tried for backend.
Yeah, like Gator seemed really interesting to me. Like, how can you just make a whole Kotlin based everything with just one
Yeah,
language? Because Gator has backend for web, maybe for your website, and KMP for your Android and iOS app. So full Kotlin stack. That is something super interesting, because if you already have some kind of um, minimum setup of the project already, you can get started instantly and make an SaaS out of nothing within maybe 1 month or 2 months with this kind of tech stack. But yeah, that's why I ask about Kator. I've tried Kator. It seems super interesting, but I think it's kind of I think so. It's paid for like we can use it in IntelliJ, which is premium one, but not in the free one. That's what I think, at least. I haven't tried it as much, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking is. It's super exciting for me as well.
yeah, definitely. Um, Probably I should spend a little bit more time with it to understand all the ins and outs. But
Mm-hmm.
from what I saw, I definitely agree that it makes it so easy and so nice when you're structuring these routes. Like at least the part that I saw for a backend, like an article or something. Um, so basically, it was DSL, and it makes it
Mm-hmm.
so easy, so nice,
Mm-hmm.
so easy, so clean, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree there. It's
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Um, like, what do you think about building your own app and releasing it in public? Like starting off just from going from an app developer, being employed, and side by side building your own app and just becoming an indie developer as such. What do you think about that?
Um, yeah, I mean, I am I worked on Android since around 2009,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have my own app on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so probably I missed a lot by that.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I also didn't have any idea of a certain problem that I'm gonna solve with an app. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's why. I think, yeah, if you can identify
Mm-hmm.
something, especially if you can identify a problem that you have that you can
Mm-hmm.
overcome with an application or a solution like an app,
Mm-hmm.
you have at least one user
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are many people are having this problem,
Mm-hmm.
and then it becomes only a matter of telling people that you have the solution.
Mm-hmm. Um,
So I am all about it.
mm-hmm.
That's gonna help not only like the development side
Mm-hmm.
that you have to execute to actually build this and release it, but it's gonna help you understand the business side of the things as to listen to customer needs
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out things to help them better.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll start understanding that um, sometimes you may make a compromise
Mm-hmm.
over a technology
Mm-hmm.
uh, because solving the problem of the people is much more important than your own ego.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Um, I tend to think that having your own app is kind of a big leverage, because I think releasing a full-fledged app, it's very pretty similar to being an indie game developer, because it's very difficult to do, and having a good app that has a lot of users while being an indie developer, it's another huge step forward. It's very tough because you're jumping a field from being an employee to directly starting your own product. So I think so. Companies might value it a lot. I do not know. I haven't talked to any HR as such who would see that kind of thing in their resume or portfolio. But I think so. It gives them a very huge confidence that you have your own app and it's released in the market and a lot of people are using it. Other than that, it's a very different skill to actually contribute to like Jira and solving bugs as compared to starting your own app from scratch, because a lot of things are required in the setup that is not required in already set up app for a big corporation. You're just solving bugs day in and day out, and you tend to forget how the projects are being set up. And I think so it's very different, two different skills, and I think so everybody should do it. That's what my thinking is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, these were all the questions from my side. If you have any advice before parting away, or any question that you want to ask, anything that you want.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for the invitation. It was really nice, nice chat. I wasn't expecting all these questions. It's awesome. I do like to wish you huge success with the podcast. I haven't been invited to many podcasts, to be frank. Yeah, so just keep going. Like the success doesn't come overnight.
I agree.
Probably you know that, and it takes a lot of work. And you are doing an amazing job with this. So just I would suggest if you can just keep going. Yeah.
Thank you. The thing is, I always think that it takes 10 years to become a overnight success. So
Yes.
yeah,
Exactly. That's a very good saying. Thanks. I'm gonna steal that from you.
yeah. It's just thing. So yeah, thank you for coming on, and it was very insightful. I'll try to link everything down in the description of this podcast whenever it gets released, and hopefully people will join your community and they will grow as a developer, and that's what I wish the most for every developer out there. So yeah, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome back. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. And if you did, of course, like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching. Comments are open for you. If you have any suggestions, you can suggest them. If you have any questions, you can ask them. And for now, this is it. I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.